God is good. That is what the Bible tells me. The Bible made me realize that I was just raised to life from the non-living atoms in my mother's womb. But let us go to those verses cited as proof that God is guilty of condoning some evil acts like rape, slavery, child abuse, torture. They say that rape is being condoned by God in these verses. I don't think so, because here God was talking to his own people through the prophet Zechariah, telling them how disappointed he was in their violations of the Ten Commandments. The evil acts we have just mentioned are clearly prohibited by Commandments 5 to 10, written in the second tablet, and enumerated in Exodus chapter 20, verses 12 to 17. In the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 22, verse 39, Jesus summarized the second tablet into a single commandment saying, love your neighbor as you love yourself. It is very clear that if you love your neighbor as yourself, you will never do the evil acts we have just mentioned. Before we go on, to make my presentation clearer, let us visit the book of Job, chapter 4, verse 8. It says, whenever I saw those who plowed wickedness and saw misery, they reaped the same. This is reinforced in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, saying, make no mistake about this. You can never make a fool out of God. Whatever you planted is what you'll harvest. Ancient wisdom calls this karma. Like reflects like, as they said. This is one of the most taken for granted principles in life. This is equivalent to Newton's in every action. There is an equal but opposite reaction. God gave us the Ten Commandments because it breaks his heart seeing us destroy ourselves by our own wickedness. So he sent his only Son to absorb the impact of that opposite reaction we have generated for thousands of years. The book of Zechariah contains a description of how God will rebuild the house of Judah and Jerusalem. But he will use the hatred of the nations around to serve as fire, refining gold and silver, because the people should be rid of wickedness first. And this wicked thing of rape is just coming back to the wicked people of Judah and Jerusalem. Chapter 12, verse 11, in the second book of Samuel, may mislead the reader if we don't show the verses before it. The preceding verses reveal that this is not really the will of God, but practically the will of David for doing what God considers evil. And that evil thing was coming back to his own house. One of them was rape, and it was coming back to those who deserve it, based on the principle of like reflects like. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 28 to 29 may make it appear that God condones rape, but look at verse 25. It says, the rapist must die. Out of the 19 translations of the Bible, 12 use the word rape and the like. 7 do not use the word rape. It looks like the translations render the verses out of context. But even if we use rape, verses 28 to 29, the situation there is different from the situation in verse 27, where no one could come for rescue. The woman here could have screamed for help. It seems there is an implied consent on the part of the woman. In any case, it is better to make the man face his responsibility than to let him go free and get away with the crime he has committed. If the woman does not want to marry a man, God does not say anything prohibiting her from doing so. So the decision is in the hands of the judge reviewing the case. Now let us go to what's next. Slavery. We have taken snapshots of the video here, and the video presentation misses some phrases taken from the verses. And the missing phrases are written in red text here. The missing phrases tell us that slavery is not acceptable to God, because God does not want the very people he freed from slavery in Egypt to enslave themselves. Let the nations around who enslaved them before take their own medicine. Here, a man decides to sell his own daughter to slavery. And the last part of the verse may be misinterpreted as saying that his daughter will be slave forever. But what the last part of the verse really means is that she will not go free the way male slaves go free as prescribed in the preceding verses. But she can go free the way female slaves go free as prescribed in the succeeding verses. So God made man. Man made slaves. And as God prescribes the way slaves go free, people say, God condones slavery. Beautiful. Let's go to torture. It is said that God tortures the soul here for no apparent reason at all. Well, if the reason here is not apparent, then I don't know what apparent means anymore. In these verses, something must be considered very well, whether the slave really deserves the beating or not. Mistakes could be made, so to make sure, God told them not to punish the slave owner if the slave doesn't die. Anyway, Job chapter 4 verse 8 and Galatians chapter 6 verse 7 will take care of that. Now in these verses, God is being questioned of the way the devil and the false prophets are being punished for causing so much trouble, so much pain, so much suffering to the whole world for thousands of years. But in the previous verses, Exodus chapter 21 verses 20 to 21, God is being questioned. Why? The slave owner is not punished for beating a single slave. What is really our position here? Punish the wicked or not? The idea that God could have just rehabilitated his souls instead of torturing them with no hope of redemption is great. That's a good idea. Brilliant. Because that is what God is doing right now on earth. Hope for redemption and rehabilitation have been here for thousands of years now. And no one among us knows how many thousands of years more will these souls refuse to take the chance of changing themselves and return to God. And who knows how much punishment they deserve? You? Me? Neither. Now let's go to child abuse. Did God deceive Abraham by not meaning what is said in this story? What if God really meant Abraham should kill his own child, Isaac? God is evil again. Did God torture Abraham and Isaac in the story? Well, they are not here anymore to testify against this idea, but Abraham and Isaac, who had a first-hand experience of what really happened, did not say anything like this. Instead, they worshiped God all their lives. Deeds speak louder than words. I think this presentation needs more study because something is missing here. That part of the story where it is the original idea of the Pharaoh of Egypt to kill the firstborn of Israel is missing. That is why God is being blamed here again for allowing the force of karma to get back to Egypt. As for the firstborn male babies, I think they were guilty in their previous lives. Now, even if I did not know Elisha, I would not have done this when I was a boy because I know this is not the right thing to do. I never did this. And I will not question it now because I know Elisha as a great man of God. God was with him when he walked the earth. He knew the souls of men. Now for the rest of your verses, this verse was given to us. What about the previous ones? And this verse was given to us. What about the verses that go before it? A little learning is a dangerous thing. Thanks for watching. Peace be with you.